This is Comics Cast.
Sarah says, "Hello, I'm having serious art block. How can I get out of it? I know what I do. What do you guys got?"
I'll let Alex talk more from the art standpoint, but I'll tell you what, from a writing standpoint, you got to sit down and do it. And I know there's days I don't want to write. Right? I'm like, I'm freaking tired. I'm hungover. Whatever it is, I've gotten my butt kicked for the last 8 hours at work, but you sit down and it's amazing to me how you kind of get in that space. You find out where you feel a little comfortable, right? I put on my headset, I play a little bit of music. You start getting in kind of that rhythm, right? And you're not always going to hit that perfect stride. Sometimes it's going to come out clunky or whatever. And sometimes you even have to back out of it and maybe look at something else, right? I usually have a couple different projects going on. So sometimes I'll go, well, you know what? I owe Alex some damn hero strips, right? So I got to write a few of those. And I really ought to be focusing on this, but, sometimes I pull out, I do a couple strips, that gets the juices flowing and come back. So I think you have to sometimes, one, just buckle down and do it. And two, if you're not getting what you want, you maybe need to switch over, try something else, try something different, get some inspiration somewhere, then come back to it.
Right? Yeah, that's some sound advice. I totally get that. And Alex,
that's most of what I do is like, it depends. It really depends on if I have a deadline or not. Do I have to draw this because it needs to go out by this time, or am I lacking inspiration for something nebulous? Like if it's the latter, I just, I kind of sift through images and I just see what strikes my eye. A lot of times, if I'm like, oh, I want to draw like a fantasy piece or whatever. Actually, this is a true story. Like I wanted to do years ago before the Cyberpunk game came out. I was really into Shadowrun and I wanted to do a Shadowrun piece. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what to think of. I want a cyborg elf thing. So I was literally looking through art reference photos until I found an art reference model that looked elvish. Mm-hmm. Sounds stupid to say that, but she inspired me, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just draw her without any adornment, just like a figure sketch. And then I'm like, okay, well, I need to do the ears. And then as I'm thinking about the pose that she's doing, I'm like, okay, well, this part should be cybernetic. And then that made me start thinking okay, magic is in this world and how that would work for this character's pose. And it was just everything would start flowing because I started working on something and I wasn't thinking about the finish line. I was thinking about all the steps involved. And it's the same with if you have a deadline. If you somebody asked me for a commission to do this thing, I have no idea what I want to do with that. I start Googling images, and it works as a way to distract your brain and to stop thinking about the pressure and more of the journey, as corny as that sounds. But I think that takes you out of the block, at least for me. And then there's just days if I don't want to draw, I just sit and watch TV for an hour, and I'm like, well, at the end of the show, I've got to sit on my ass and do something.
Uh-huh.
It is a step process, right? Everything is. If you think about anything you do in your life, you got to do this step and this step and this step and this step, and maybe not always in a certain order, maybe not, but you basically have to sit down and go, all right, it's one foot in front of the other, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, right?
Yeah. Agree completely. I think that's sound advice. Hopefully, Sarah, that answered your question.